Good morning. I'm Leonard Fleming. I am in charge of activity up here at the Letcher County Miners Memorial. We want to invite all of you to watch our video today. I'm 70 years old. I worked in the mines 32 years. And my son Ross, one of the board members up here, and I'll introduce more board members later, this was his vision and his dream to get this started up here, and he's got a lot of help out of the fiscal court and our political friends in Frankfort and in Letcher County, and all the miners and the citizens in Letcher County have really participated in this. And one of the first things I want to talk to you about is just a coal miner. As you saw earlier, we showed you a picture of what we have up here at the Letcher County Miners Memorial. We have our Miners Memorial here that is so important to us. And we also have, to my left here, and we'll be re-looking at it later, is the bent back sore knee mines. I'll go into a little more detail about the bent back sore knee mines. I personally chose that name for that coal mines, and I also chose the spelling like I would normally have spelled that, or like one of our ancestors would have spelled that many years ago. Here behind me, the first thing I want to talk about is just a coal miner. We have a picture of a coal miner here, and this miner is in full dress to go to work several years ago. There's some things that have changed since then, and he'd look different today if you looked and saw him if he was getting ready to go to work. And I'm going to start with the top of his head and talk down a little bit. If you're in high school right now, or you've never worked in the coal mines and you wanted to get you a job in the coal mines, first thing you'd have to do is be properly trained as a beginning coal miner and get a certificate saying that you could be a new miner in the mines. And then you'd have to get the equipment that you'd use to go in the mines with. We have up here a hard hat. I'll show you some hard hats later on today, how hats have changed through the coal mining. And this hat is it's an approved hat. You can't just go out and get a hard hat somewhere and go in the coal mines. This hat has been approved that it can take a certain type of blow and dropping so much material on it and it won't bust to protect the miner's head. I guarantee you today, if you went to work in the coal mines and you went underground, that within 3 steps of going underground, you'd bump your head. And there's fallen objects in the mines, and that's part of the big protection for a coal miner when he goes in the mines. On that cap, as you can see it now, that cap would be a miner wore that cap in underground today. He would get a violation from a federal coal mine inspector. And the reason he'd get a violation, this cap is not illuminated. They passed a law back in early 80s, I think it was, that cap would have to have so much reflective material on it, so if a light hit on it, it would shine bright and so forth. And that law was put in there so that somebody operating a piece of equipment could see that miner better. His head was sticking up, and cut down on people getting hit by equipment. And we had a lot of people killed over the years by being struck by a piece of mining equipment. Coal mine's usually 18 to 20 foot wide, and you put a piece of equipment 10 or 12 foot wide in it, it doesn't give you much room to stand beside that piece of equipment or to walk by it as it operates. And it is one of the bigger hazards in the mines, being struck by a piece of mobile equipment. You'll see his shirt here today and his pants. That would not be allowed in the mines either. You get a violation for that. And the reason you get a violation for that is you can't see this shirt and pants. I know a lot of you all have seen miners out there today with those big orange reflective stripes on them and so forth. The reason that is on those miners is that throughout history of coal mining, miners have been run over by equipment. There's a lot of noise in the mines, and if you got your back, you turn to a piece of equipment, you can't hear that piece of equipment coming to you, towards you. And if it's in low coal, we have low coal in the mines as low as 24 inches. And you're not going to be able to see across a piece of equipment. You can only see on the side that you're operating that piece of equipment on. And so they passed a law that not only to have illumination on your hat, You have to have it on your clothes now, and you even have to have it on there to where they can see you if you're crawling in the mines, because we have most of our mines is crawling at anymore. Coming on down, you'll see his mining belt here. You can't just go out and get any belt. Well, you could, but you'd have to change that belt when you put it on. First thing you'd have to do, you'd have to have proper identification, and you'd have to have your name on that belt. And the reason you'd want your name on that belt, throughout history, we've had major mine disasters and so forth where several people have been injured or killed in the mines, and you go up there and find several miners in one pile and you didn't know which one was which, and you couldn't identify them. There has been instances, and I've been involved in some of them as an accident investigator, and that miners would be, their wives would be called at home and say, or they'd send somebody home and they'd say, something happened at the mines and your husband is missing. And they maybe be in bed. I know of one instance, something happened about 10 o'clock in the mines, and the miner laid off that night. He was sick, couldn't go to work, and knock on the door, and he come to the door and he told his wife, when she went to the door, said, "I'm sorry to tell you your husband's trapped in the mine." She said, "No, he's not, he's in there in the bed." And so it's real important that you have identification, and they had not got in the mines and identified the miners was missing at that time because the mines was on fire. They also have to check in and out of the mines, and we'll talk a little bit more about a check in and out systems that tells everybody who's in the mines now, and years ago you didn't have to do that. As you come on down, you've seen a pick here. You don't see a pick in the mines. I don't think they even exist anymore. The picks don't. And coming on down, you see his shoes. He's got on hard-toed shoes. Years and years ago, there was a lot of people lost toes and so forth in the mines before there was a law that said you had to have hard-toed shoes. Tell you a little story. Ben Hall, I heard him make a speech one time down at Carr's Fork Lake talking about coal miners to a bunch of coal miners, and he said, Ben's dead and gone now, and Ben said when he went to work in the mines, there was 2 pair of shoes in the mines. There was a pair of shoes on the front of the pony and a pair of shoes on the back legs of the pony. They were all barefooted working in the mines in the early 30s. So many people got injured, lost toes, lost feet, that they came up with requirements that you'd have to have hard-toed shoes. Now, the things I just described to you would just get you started. You'd also have to have a pair of safety glasses in case you were working around something that small material could hit you in the eyes, something like that. You would have to have a pair of gloves because everything's wet, pretty sloppy around in the mines, and if you don't wear gloves or something, there's a lot of electrical hazards around and ways of injury. And the things I've just described to you is just some things that a lot of people don't talk about. Today, when a coal miner goes in the mines, he's kind of like a robot. Then on his belt, usually you'll find a self-rescuer, and then you'll see his battery light on that. And let me talk a little bit about the battery light. The battery light that's required, that you see up here on this mining cap, that light is required by law to have either 2 bulbs in it or have a filament in it that has 2 sides to where you can turn a switch to one side and have a light, and turn it another way and have a light. And the purpose of that is if you get in the mines and your bulb blows, only half of the bulb blows, or only one bulb will blow, and you got light to get out of the coal mines with. With that, I think I've pretty well, we're proud of this statue of this miner. We stay here on this logo on this right here, that we wanted to give something back to the coal miners. That the miners would give so much, when they go in the mines. They give up their health, and if they survive when they get out, they're usually in black lung. They all have problems with that, and or they're missing some of the limbs and so forth. Another little story I'll tell you about, when I first went to work in the mines, I was in a bathhouse over at Dunham, and an old gentleman was a mine foreman up there. We called him Mulehead Mullins from up Mac Roberts. Mulehead we were sitting around, there was about 15 or 16 of us in there, and I hear Mulehead say, "There ain't a man in the house." I thought, somebody's going to kind of kick his rear end a little bit or something. You know, I thought he was referring to that there was not a man in the house, and he said, unless it's Leonard over there, and that made me feel pretty good. But what he was referring to was, we got to counting over there that nobody in that building at that time had all their body parts. Everybody was missing a finger or a toe, or and I remember Perry Potter from up here at Hemphill, just up the road here. I think Perry might have died down in Alabama working in Jim Walter's Corporation's places, mines. But Perry had top part of his ear had been looked like he'd just take a scissors and clipped it off. And motor pole had hit him. And there was a joke around the mines at that time when the miners run a motor, which is it was kind of like a train out there, but it was run by electricity. It had a big pole back on it, and there was a joke around the mines. If you've done a motor, or run a motor full time, that they just take you down to the hospital and have your ear clipped off. That way you wouldn't lose no time when the motor pole hit it and fractured your ear and so forth. But that's just a few stories that jumps out on me, and I thought you might enjoy hearing those type things. Could we take a break down? Okay, I've got a couple of my board members with me up here. They've been working hard, trying to keep the monument looking good for you and staying ahead of the game, and just giving you a good place to go. Before I introduce them, I just thought of a little story that I want to tell. I like to throw them in there every time I can. Back about last year, I stopped up here and was doing a little work on the monument, and a car pulled in here, had Texas tags on it, and the gentleman, I explained what the monument was, and he was real fascinated by it, and I said, by the way, how did you know to stop here? He said, I've got a GPS system in my car, and said about a mile down the road, he started telling me special attraction ahead, Miners Monument ahead, special attraction. And it made me feel awful good that anybody in the world, in this electronic world today, can pull up the Miners Monument on the internet, and it's on a GPS system coming from the satellites up in the sky. But with me here, I have a retired coal miner here. Would you tell them who you are?
I'm Rob Fleming. I live right here in Hemphill.
Rob, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I've had 40 plus years underground mining experience. I began as a hand loader with the old big shovel, loaded over in the coal car, and I got on mechanized mines, and I learned to run equipment and took the mine foreman training and went from that to a federal inspector's job, which I worked for 29 years.
Okay. Rob is pretty modest about some of the things he says now. We're real proud of Rob. He done a lot of mine rescue work in his life, as I did also. And one of the things that Rob did is he put his life on the line over at Scotia Mines. He don't ever talk about it. But he went in there after the second explosion and done a lot of work in that coal mine. I was there on the first explosion, and I know what he went through over there. But we really appreciate Rob up here in the community, and he does a lot of community work up here. Anything else you'd like to say, Rob?
No, that's about all, I guess.
Okay. Now, Rob, he started his second career now as a musician. We'll talk about that a little later in the program here. You know, our coal miners, they can do about anything. Okay, with this, we got Mark here. Let me kind of get turned around here to where I don't block our signs. Mark, I see you're holding a sign here that we're real proud of. In our back a few years ago, the state adopted this, and then it all just died out. And when I was working for the state, I got this banner, And our board of directors adopted this slogan here years ago, and I think this is a message from any coal miner that you ever seen in a mines or retiree to his family, that he wants them to all go to school and that an education will pay you. And if you talk to a coal miner, you don't want, he's proud of his coal mining work, but he don't want to have his family be subjected to the hazards and so forth in a coal mine. But Mark, you want to tell us a little bit about you? This is Mark Spangler here. He's on our board of directors here at Miners Memorial. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Mark Spangler. I live here in Hemphill. Come down and help them without the Miners Memorial, keep it operating a little bit, try to keep the maintenance up on it, and just general anything they need to do.
We're real proud of Mark. He's also started another career here as a musician. Mark, you wanted to give us a little bit about the speech I wrote for you.
They always said I'm real camera shy, so they wrote me a speech, and it was supposed to be 30 minutes of check, 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 and 30 minutes of test, test, test.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Pretty well covers it.
We're looking at one of our two art stones up here at this time. We apologize, the sun's shining and reflecting off some things. We hope this turns out real well in detail, because it really does need justice. These two stones we ordered they came from South Africa, as all of our black stones did. And we had those come through Georgia, I think it was. And we had an artist down in Georgia to do this artwork on them, and put some pictures on there of some of the old scenes and some new scenes. The first picture I'm going to describe to you here is, I'm only going to describe a couple of them because I'm not sure that you can see them well. The first one is a very important picture that I just love every time I see it. Shows the coal miners coming out of the mines. I see a lot of things in that picture that an average person just walks up there and sees a coal miner riding out of the mines. If you can look, the roof bolts are sticking down, and you see that's rock. It looks like a honeycomb around them two roof bolts. That tells me a lot of slate has fell in that coal mines. That the bottom of that little flat part of that roof bolt is where the original roof of that mines was, and throughout the years it crumbled and fell and so forth, and it's still safe, or they wouldn't be coming out under it there like that. And second thing that I look at is, you see all that water that's now it's a man trip's what we refer to that that the miners ride in and out of a coal mines on. And if you notice, those miners are kind of bent over there. That tells me that coal right there is probably about somewhere around a little less than 4 foot tall, probably around 40 inches, because they've been bent over trying to keep from bumping the top with their heads and getting injured by the roof bolts or something like that as you come out. Now that particular, I can't tell what it is from looking at it here. That piece of equipment more than likely is either battery, or there's a lot of diesel equipment in the mines today, but it's an important picture, and it tells me a lot, because you see their lunch buckets there and they're all coming home. The other picture that I'd like to talk to you about is it's a picture of a long wall shear there. They take a long wall shear in a coal mines today, and they can run more coal with that one shear you're looking at there. And that little canopy like sticking over that there is that's called the jacks. That type of mining originated in Germany, and they called them chalks in Germany, but we call them jacks here. And that's where the miners they walked under that part of it there, and they go up to the back end of the mines, and they leave a big block of coal, and then they mine that block of coal out as they come out of there, and the roof is falling right beside them jacks as they come out of there. And it's always on that type mining, you can hear it thundering just like a big major thunderstorm out here, and you've got roof falls at all times. And but it's modern mining. That's where mining has went to today. They can run more coal with that shear system that we're looking at right now than 400 or 500 men could run in the mines back years ago. And just up the road from this miner's monument, there used to be the old Hemphill mines. And I've been told by some of the older miners that worked at that mines, and there's not many of them left, that at one time, that was Elkhorn Coal Company, at one time, they closed the mines at Heyman and brought all the men up here, and this was hand loading days at that time, and there was around 700 men working in this mines up here. Now, can you imagine 700 men working in one little spot today, and every one of them getting a payday 2 weeks from then, and all of them having their children, send them to school. It was a hard time. And it was a hard time back in those days, but it was a good time. Okay, we're looking at the back side of the same arch stone that I described to you earlier here. There's a couple of pictures I'd like to talk about on it. One of the fine picture that tells a whole lot about the history of mining and so forth is this picture on the bottom. This is a young coal miner you can look at here. We're reasonably confident that this is one of the children that went in the mines. This boy, we don't know how old he was. This is just a picture that we'd found somewhere, and it's got a lot of detail in it there that I like. But you can assume that his daddy probably took him in the mines, or maybe his daddy got injured and he had to go in the mines to help his family and so forth financially. Just speculate on that and think about how hard those times was back in them days, and that's what happened to children. That's the reason today there's child laws and stuff that you can't work children in the mines under 18 years old. But if you look at his hat there, he's got on a soft hat, and he's got a light on that hat that, and with a little thing there to pull his wick in and out with on it. That I'll show you one of those lights a little later on in the show. But it was those lights, I've been told that, today a lot of people refer to them as oil lights or smudge pot lights. But in reality, there wasn't much oil or anything in this country at that time. They couldn't run down to a store somewhere and pick up some kerosene or something like that. And I've been told that they actually used animal fat most of the time in those lights. And it had a wick, and it provided them some light in the mines. But I'm glad today that we don't have children in the mines like that. Now, the next picture up is quite unusual. If you'll look, this guy here sitting on that car has got a carbide light on, and that was the next lighting after you had the smudge pots, and I'll show you that after a while. And they were using goats to pull the coal out of the mines. Now, back in the days that they used animals in the mines, you had to have something that wasn't as tall as the seam of coal was, and they probably couldn't get a pony. I've been told ponies were very valuable at that time. They probably couldn't get ponies to fit in that mines, and they discovered that goats could fit in that mines, and so they worked goats just like they did a mule or a pony or something, pulled it out of the mines. And if you'll look at right there at that gentleman's head right there, you can see where the rocks fell in that coal mines. It's a lot higher than the coal is down right there about level with the top of that one goat's head, I'm pretty sure. But there's been a roof fall right there, the first thing in that coal mines. Okay, I want to show you one of our more recent additions up here. We think our Miners Monument is about as perfect as you could have it, and we keep getting ideas and stuff. People tells us to do it, but we're kind of pretty well stuck on that. We've pretty well got this thing the way we want it. But one of the latest addition is this two angels that we bought, and we had some little logos and stuff put under them, some Bible verses and so forth. And we're real thankful for the Letcher County Physical Court for helping us buy those angels. Now, when we bought these angels, we could have went down and $400 or $500 and bought a concrete angel, and everybody told us that with the elements out here and so forth, that in a year or two it would crumble up on us. So this is made out of the same stuff. It's stones like you have down at any cemetery, and we had Potter Monument to make this thing for us, and of course they had people to carve this out. I think again it was down in Georgia where it came through, and we're real proud of those angels. I'm standing here behind what we refer to as our Scotia stone. This stone we debated long and hard before we added this stone. It was really one of the first things that we added to this monument in its entirety, but we talked about it a lot, and the reason that we talked about it was that we didn't, to us and our committee and the board of directors, we don't put any more importance to one miner getting killed than 2 or 3 or more, because a mine disaster is the same thing for every family that's involved in it. If if these 10 people gets killed in the mines, there's 10 disasters if they're killed at the same time, far as we're concerned. And we didn't want to individualize any part of this monument, or we did want to individualize it, but we didn't want to put a lot of focus on any type of one event. But this is the worst mine disaster that ever happened in Letcher County, so we felt like that we should put a stone up for that. But we didn't put those miners' names on this because we felt like if one miner got killed in a roof fall, to his family he was just important as any of the other miners that got killed in more than one that got killed in the mines. So what we did, we just put a little summary of what happened, and one of the things a lot of people don't realize is that 92 or 96 miners escaped that mine, or 91 miners at the Scotia mine disaster on the first explosion. And by the way, there was 2 explosions over there. There was 91 people or coal miners come out of that mines that day that survived it, and you don't hear much talk about that. And I'm sure that the reason those miners come out of that mines was that they was in the area they were in particular, was they were doing good mining practices and complying with the mining laws. Okay, I'm standing here beside one of our 4, we refer to them as fatalities stones. We have worked hard trying to find out every coal miner that lost his life in a coal mines in Letcher County, or if he lived in Letcher County and worked in a mines in somewhere else. We wanted their names on here, but they had to have the Letcher County connection in order for us to put their names on here. We put bricks in here. We help support our monument by selling bricks for $50 and put names and stuff on there, and a lot of coal miners that are living buys those bricks. We can put anything in about 3 lines on those bricks. I've got one in there for myself. I've actually got 2. As a board of director, they put my name out there, but as a coal miner, my family wanted to buy me a brick and put that brick in this monument for everybody to come up here. And I really enjoy coming up and looking at those bricks, and I look around and see the miners that I used to work with, and it brings back a lot of good memories for me. But we've got 4 stones up here, and there's a little room left on them for more names to be added, and we hope we never have to add any more names to this stone. To my knowledge, we haven't had a fatality in Letcher County in over a year, and we're proud of the miners for being able to work safe, and we're proud of the agencies that provides them by the law a safe area to work in, and the coal operator who provides them a place to work and provides safe mines for them. But I should have probably mentioned these stones first, because this is what it was all about here, that we wanted to recognize the people who give their lives in the mines and all the miners. And one thing that we don't have here at some of you older miners or people look at this, is we would like to know who is the oldest fatality on these stones. Now, the information we got to put these names on here came from the state, then it came from the federal, and then they came from word of mouth of people that there was no list that went back past the mid-50s. And there's a lot of names that families had called us up and said, my father or my brother or my uncle lost their life in the mines, and their name's not on them stones, and we're still at them. You know, we want to get, if a man gave his life up in the mines due to a mine accident, we want his name on these stones. Now, we debated about this real early, that a lot of people are discussing about, well, what about black lung? Well, any miner that worked in the mines any length of time has black lung. And if we put every miner on the stone here that dies with black lung, then most of the miners that ever died in Letcher County would be on these stones. So we had to leave that off. You know, one of these days we may be able to identify those people some way and give special attention to them, but there were just so many people that died with black lung. We just had to limit it to the mine accidents themselves. And again, I'd like to say that these are the people who have the direct Letcher County connection. Now, if you lived in Pound, Virginia and was killed in a coal mine in Letcher County, we still put your name on there. If you lived in Letcher County and you worked in West Virginia and you got killed in the mines, we put your name on here. But you had to have the Letcher County connection in order to do that. Now, on our bricks, we debated long and hard on who could qualify for a brick. And we finally just decided that anybody that worked in or around the mines that was on a mine payroll, one payday, was eligible to buy a brick down here. So we limited it to that. And with that, we'll move on to the next. Okay, we're here in front of our mine office. We've got a few antiques in and around on this building. I'll tell you a little bit of the history of this. We didn't have any kind of place to put a sign-in book when we first built our monument, and we decided we'd build some little something to just big enough to put a notebook in, and for people to sign their name, and if they wanted to, put their address or whatever, any information, or write something down that they wanted to in our book here. And we built this thing here, and it was, we hadn't stained it or anything, and a couple of people commented to us, said, what'd you build an outhouse for? For you young people out there, you don't know what an outhouse is. That's grandma or grandpa. They can tell you what an outhouse is. And it was about the size of an old outhouse. And by the way, we're up here at Hemphill, and there's a coal camp here, and behind every coal camp house in Hemphill and all these other coal camps in McRoberts, Jenkins, Seco, wherever, there was a building just like this, and it was called an outhouse. And I'll just let you ask grandpa or grandma what an outhouse is about. That'll let them tell you some stories. And but we also, in front of this outhouse, we've got 2 coal buckets here. Most families couldn't even afford a coal bucket. They just used a 5-gallon bucket that oil or grease would come from around the coal company. But these were special made buckets that you could get coal in and take them in your house. And you could either pour it in your fireplace, or you could put it in a coal stove or something. And a little handier to carry and get the coal out of and put it in the bucket. And now we'll kind of move inside. I've got a couple of things I want to show you inside the building. This little plaque here that Board of Directors of this, the Miners Memorial, wanted to put up real early in this was to put up a plaque for Ross Fleming. It was Ross's idea, and Ross pulled a bunch of people together to help him and to help get funding for this, and we're proud of him and what he's done here for the Coal Miners Monument. And by the way, Ross is not a coal miner. Okay, in our mine office building, we always keep a few brochures here to for people that come in that don't know much about the Miners Memorial, and it tells about it, and it goes in pretty good detail about what we've got here, and we do need to update it some. This brochure is about 3 years old. We also have here a sign-in book that we really appreciate anybody that comes up here and visits our Miners Memorial, that they sign their name and where they're from, and we always put address and phone number. You can give us whatever you want to. I know we have to be careful with people's addresses and stuff, but that's up to you all. But another thing I'd like to also point out in here, I'd like to read you a couple of things. I'll not go into names, but I went through this right here. There's a page and a half of names here of visitors who have been here recently. I'm looking here at Fort Pierce, Florida, is one address. There's a bunch of locals. Oceanside, North Carolina Beach here. Let me turn the page. I see a Michigan, another Michigan, a Georgia, 2 Georgias, and a whole bunch of throughout the counties and stuff. But we have had, I don't think I know there's not a state left that somebody hasn't signed their name in here that they've been here. We've had people from Alaska, we've had people from Germany, we've had a lot of people visit this monument, and we're proud of it. And we think that we have got one of the best places for you to come and enjoy yourself, and especially if you've got somebody in from out of town and you want to show them something special, you bring them up here. And if you've got a group, I'll be glad to come up here and talk to them and talk about coal mining with them. Okay, again, we're on the west side of our little mine office building. We have a few little interesting things on there, I think, that some of them might be referred to as antiques, but they're just kind of old stuff. First thing I'll refer to is a mule shoe here. You know, a lot of mules was used in the mines and farming around in these coal camps and so forth. The other thing we got here, it's been painted. It don't show up as good as it used to, and that's a piece of trolley wire. That's what they run the electricity in the mines to run the. It was an electric motor, but it was kind of does the same thing that a train does out on a railroad track. It pulled cars, but it run by electricity. Had a pole stuck up on it, and it rubbed on this naked electric wire. A little story about that is I had an uncle that we think could have been electrocuted. He died in the coal mines from electrocution, and the only thing close to him was one of these wires, and we think that he bumped that with his back, and there was about usually around 300 volts on that, and he had on a pair of shoes, and this was back in the days, and you know, coal mines always been hard, but they've been harder times. And he had on a pair of shoes that the soles had tried to come off of them, and he'd actually took some wire and laced one side of the boots that he was wearing in the mines back together, and we think his feet was real damp, and that contributed to him possibly getting killed in the coal mines. The other thing we got is pick and shovel, and throughout the years, pick and shovel's kind of been a little bit of a symbol for coal mining. Today, they still use a shovel in the mines to load up loose coal. Pick like this don't exist anymore. I don't think you can even buy them that I know of. If you find one of them, it's an antique. You might want to get it. On the other side was one of the rare complaints that we got. I come up here one day, and I'd found that horseshoe. Actually found it down in Tennessee, and I thought, well, we don't have a horseshoe up there on the side of our building, and I wanted to put a horseshoe on it. And I come up here and I turned the forks down on that horseshoe where it pointed towards the ground. I hadn't much more than got to the house, telephone rang, and it was a friend of mine, and he said, Leonard, don't you know, or he said, first he said, somebody's put a horseshoe on the side of that building up there at the Miners Monument. I said, yeah, I done that a while ago. He said, well, don't you know it's bad luck to turn the forks of the horseshoe down, that you're supposed to turn that towards the heavens? I didn't know that. I had to make a special trip up here and turn that horseshoe around, but we've never received really any complaints or anything up here. We built this place, and we tried to build it to where it takes care of itself. Weather washes it, and every now and then we'll come up here and sweep a few leaves off, but we basically don't have to do anything up here. We have an escapeway sign in the mines today. These same type signs, you'll find them in a coal mine. That's to point the miners in a direction that to get out of the mines in case that there's a mine fire explosion or something, because some mines you may be back in there miles, and you don't go straight back in there and straight out. You'll have to make turns, and it's once you get back in there, if there's no signs or nothing to follow to get out of there, you can get lost real quick in a coal mines. Now down here is something we're going to have to work on. I hadn't noticed. This is our check-in and check-out board. Every coal mine is required by law to have one of those, and it'll say in and out on it. And there's different ways of doing that. But I told you early on that I talked a little bit about the man having a mining belt and his name on it. When you go in a coal mine, you've got to have some kind of identification on your belt, as I described earlier. Then you got to have a tag with that same type of identification that you can leave on a check-in and check-out board, and they usually have a board like this, and they hang a tag up. This is one I used in the mines for years right here. It's got my name and social security number on it. And what they would do, if you come in the mines, you put your name tag right here before you went underground. That way they knowed you was in there. Because see, some mines, you may have 200 or 300 men working at it. And when you come out of the mines, you take this tag off and you turn it over, and they usually have the other side of the board for you to put it on to identify you made it out of that mines. Now somebody is required by law to check that at the first of the shift and the last of the shift. And every day, so that we can identify who's in the mines. And I spoke a little bit about how important that was, and if in the event of a mine explosion or something, it's really important to know who's in the mines and who got out of that mines. When you go back in there hunting for them, you may come up with one name. You may think you got them all out, and there's still somebody out in a remote area of the mines that you haven't found. So this is an important thing that you got to have at the mines, and today you still have to have them. But the early mines didn't have that, and there was a lot of confusion when several miners got killed in the mines. And we'll move on to the next part of the building here. Okay, we're here at one of the most valuable pieces of equipment that the early coal miners have that you don't see very many of today, but we still got one at my house. I enjoy asking young people what this is, and they kind of look at me like, I don't know. But this right here, I'll start out by calling it a bean pot. This is what we canned beans in. When I was a child, most of the beans, we'd fill fruit jars up with beans and fill a tub up like that with water, build a fire under it, and let it boil for so many hours, and your beans was canned. That's what you'd eat in the wintertime. This was also, when Dad worked in the mines, your dad, brother, uncle, or whoever he was, very few people in the early mining days had bathrooms. This was the wash tub for the family, and it was the wash tub for the miner. Miner would come out of the mines, he'd be just as black as he could be, and he'd wash his face and his hands, and he'd go and sit down in that tub and wash the rest of his body. And this is where the rest of the family took their bath, at least once a week, where you needed it or not. My mother used to say, I'd say, Mommy, I'm not wet, or I'm not dirty. You need a bath anyway. And about once a week is what people took a bath back in them days. It served many, many purposes. Water would get scarce in the summertime, we'd set that wash tub out by the back of the house in one of the drains and catch it full of rainwater to wash clothes with. And they washed their clothes in a tub just like this. Also, it served many functions, and one of the last things that it done is most miners and stuff they lived around these old hills, and they'd have like a hog pen up on the side of the mountain. They'd get them a little pig in the summertime and feed it all the scraps, and then up around Thanksgiving they'd kill a hog. They'd fill this tub up with water, or one just like it there, and build a fire under it, get it boiling, and after they killed a hog, they would pour hot water on that hog and scrape all the hair off of it. So it was something every household had, and it was normally on the outhouse. If it wasn't in use, there was a nail, and it hung on the outhouse just like this. So I love describing this here. And this was painted by Sally Bentley, who taught school here most of her life at the Hemphill School, and was a good artist. And she painted that for us, and it shows a flagpole on top of a mountain, an American flag, and a coal miner there where he's lied on with a pick in his hand with a flame safety light in his hand. Just a great piece here, and we're real proud that Sally done that for us. And by the way, Sally's no longer with us. She's deceased. Okay, we're back here on the west side of our building. We've got a few little interesting things that we can talk about. That danger sign, blasting area, keep away, that came off of a surface mine job. Well, we put things here for surface miners as well as underground. And every year, the Mine Safety and Health Administration, they put out what they call winter alert signs, send signs out to all the mines to get people's attention. And if they're having a lot of roof falls, they'll talk about roof falls. And if you've had a mine explosion, they'll do that. And this one, probably that year they had a mine explosion, and they usually put this one out in the fall of the year. That's when most of the mines dry out and you get more of the explosions. We do have a set of bits here that come out of a cutting machine in the mines, and we also have a warning sign, explosive in use, that come off of a surface mine. But one of the things I like to talk about here is this old coal auger. In the 30s and 40s, and a few of the real small mines in the 50s, they used this, and they'd drill a hole by hand. Now you can imagine going up there and getting a hold of that crank and pushing on it with your chest and drilling a hole 6, 7, 8 foot back in the coal. And you'd have to drill 5 or 6 of those holes and filling it up with dynamite or powder, black powder one, and blasting the coal down. And that was not an easy thing to do, and I can personally say that I know it wasn't easy, because when I was very young, 10, 11 years old, we had what we called coal banks that we'd get our coal out to burn for the winter in our house, and we'd use one of them to drill 2 or 3 holes back in that coal, and then we'd fill it up with dynamite. That usually it was dynamite that one of the older miners that lived there in our community would pilfer from the mines and so forth, and we'd blast coal down in order to get enough coal to build a fire to keep us warm in the wintertime. That pretty well sums up our mine office here, and we'll move on down now to our bent back sore knee mines. Okay, we're standing here in a little project that I pretty well drew all this up, and this was basically my idea with a lot of help. I even picked Rob's mind there a little bit on that before we got started. And but we're at the bent back sore knee mines, and if you'll read it there, I think it's interesting that all of our coal miners have usually got a bent back and a sore knee, especially if they worked in low coal. So I thought it was appropriate to name that mines bent back sore knee mines. The other thing I did, now I'm not making fun of those miners back in them days, but back in the 30s and the 40s, that might have been the way they felt that, because they didn't have education opportunities. It wasn't that they wouldn't have went to school and so forth if they'd had opportunities, but they didn't have opportunities, and everybody spelled everything the way it sounded. And so our mines is BNTBAKSORNEEMINZ. And the interesting thing about that is, I've had people come up here and look at that for 5-10 minutes and say, "What's that mean?" And usually, and I tell them, they say, "Oh, I didn't realize that." But usually when I ask them after that, it was educated people. A common person figures it out real quick, but the well-educated, it just doesn't focus on some of them. But Rob and I sat down on this, and we decided some of the things that we wanted to build a little place called Assimilated Mines that people could look back in, or you can even crawl back in there. That you can't go to a coal mines today and go in a coal mines as a visitor because of their insurances and so forth. They just don't allow that. Nobody does, nowhere anymore. So this is about the closest thing you can get to a coal mines to actually see a coal mines, and it looks very realistic. We got the sides of the mines are black. The coal is black in the mines. We have a gray roof in there. We have rails in there. Some mines have rails and some don't. And we've got an old coal car in there that came from down at Kona, Cecil Bentley's estate after he died. He was a retired coal miner. They auctioned that off, and I bought that and put it up here. And Wayne Fleming, our good magistrate from over Jenkins, he donated the rails there. And I think the judge, he kind of helped us out a little bit on some torch work and things to get that in there. We're real proud, but if you look back in there, we've got safety timbers set. We've got roof bolts overhead. You can see most of what you would see if you just look back in the coal mines. We've got a couple lumps of coal in here for you to look at. One of them there is hard coal. I've heard of hard coal all my life, and I never did really know what hard coal was. But hard coal is anthracite coal, and we have a little bit of that around here, but it was just in little spots. And mines around here hated it because it burnt too hot. And if you tried to use it for house coal, it'd burn your stove up and stuff. So they didn't like this hard coal you'd have. And you also have over here on my other side, the miners call that a kittle bottom. But in reality, that is a part of a tree stump. You can still see the bark in the side of that right there if you look at it real close. In a coal mines, when coal was being formed, it was swampy, and there was some trees standing up, and as coal got formed, it left those trees there, and then the rock formed around them. And when you see those in the mines, you may see one that's not big as your hand, or you may see one that you couldn't reach around, and those things were very dangerous. Because where the bark was at on that bark turned into coal, and where the tree itself was at turned into rock. And they were subject to just fall out on you at any time, and there's been miners killed with rocks, something like that. And most of the miners in the mines today gets killed by small rocks. Occasionally there's a major root fall, but a lot of miners gets injured in the mines today with rocks probably smaller than a wheelbarrow. Everybody thinks if a miner gets killed in the mines, the whole mountain set down on them. Now, a lot of times that's not true. But this coal car in here, we think was used in 1943. The mines went in behind Cecil's house down there in Coney. But come up here, and Mike Short, one of our board members, he's the only working coal miner we ever had on our board of directors, and Mike's dead now. He worked right up till he worked right up until he had a heart attack and died as a working coal miner. And but Mike, we joked a little bit. Him and his wife Helen both was on the board of directors here, and we joked a little bit. And Mike said he was going to, when he got his payday, he's going to take it and put it back there in the back and make her crawl back in there and get it, so she'd have a little bit of idea what he had to put up with to make money for them to put food on the table. So just a little something of interest I thought I'd tell you about. But if you want to just kind of get a feel of what a coal mine looks back like and so forth, just crawl right back in there. And if you crawled 8 foot back in the coal mines, I'm telling you now, it would look similar to what this is here on it. And with that, we'll move on to the next project.
You're with the Letcher County Government Channel. This is Paul Fleming from Jenkins, Kentucky. Visiting with us today is our brother-in-law and sister-in-law and their daughter from Prattville, Alabama, wanting to see the Letcher County Monument. So we brought them over. I'll let them all, and my wife, and let them introduce themselves.
I'm Nancy Fleming from over at Dunham, Jenkins, Kentucky.
I'm Grant Wright from Prattville, Alabama.
Hilma Wright from Prattville, Alabama.
And Kim Quinney from Prattville, Alabama.
Okay, we're back over here at the Bent Back Sore Knee Mines. I had to go get a little oxygen put on. I do have black lung, and I've been talking a whole lot and kind of got winded, but I hope I can still last out another 15-20 minutes for you. I want to show you a few little artifacts I've got here. I want to talk a little bit about lights in the coal mines. I figure the first coal mines that was ever put in probably had a stick like this with maybe a rag wrapped around it or something soaked in some kind of oil or animal fat, probably stuck up, and they lit that and probably got the coal mine on fire, and as well as being able to see a little bit. From that, you look in the history books, and they had some little lights like this right here. I'll show you a cap that they used them on in a minute, but this was actually just like a little tea kettle, and it had a little rope stuffing or something that stuck out of it, and they'd light that, and then that's what you saw by. The next thing I've got here is a little. I was down in Colorado at a little town that had an old gold mine in it years ago, and I bought this as a candle holder, and they told me that that was used in the gold mines out there. And I was a tourist, so I don't know if it was just something to get my money or not, but I liked the looks of it. So I figure our miners might have used something like that at times too. Now we're going to move on to carbide lights, and Rob here, I'm going to have him tell you a little bit about carbide lights. I think Rob's probably an expert on them.
I don't know about the expert part, but I have used carbide lights in the mines. When I first started in hand loading with one of the shovels that's over there on the mine office, we used carbide lights. This one has a big face to it that gives you more illumination. This one just has the normal face that you buy with the light. This is a carbide can that you bought your carbide in. This part here is the bottom part of it. That's where the carbide goes. You have a little lid here. You have a little reservoir in there that you put your water in. And when you use your carbide up, you take its bottom off and dump it out and put fresh carbide in, little granular, gray granular things, look like little gravels. Put it in there, and you got a little dial here that releases the water down on it. And when that water hits that carbide, it creates a gas that comes out this little tube here. You have a flint here just like on a cigarette lighter, and you flint that there, and it'll make a flame come out there, and that gives you your light. Here is a carbide can that you buy the carbide in, and here is a bottom part to the carbide light, whereas the miner, he didn't want to carry around this big can here, so he would have this in his pocket, and it's got a little cap on it. He'd have a fresh supply of carbide in that container, and all he had to do is take this lid off and put it on, take the bottom off of this and just screw this back on the bottom. And as Leonard mentioned there a while ago, most of the time, instead of turning this little dial to release the water down on the carbide, when he would put that, before he put it on the bottom of the carbide lamp, he'd just simply spit in it. And that would do the same thing as the water would. And that would create the gas that come out that would be ignited by this flint here, and that would give him a new supply of light.
Okay, we got one other light here that for years and years miners has used a battery light like this right here, and this right here was a tremendous advancement from candles and so forth like that. You could see 7 or 8 feet with one of these right here in the mines. This thing right here would shine 40, 50 foot in the mines. They've got a new light out now. It weighs about half as much as this light here and about half as big as that for the miners to pack. But lights have come a long way in the coal mines. Okay, I've got a display of hard hat or mining caps here. I'd like to review with you a little bit. You've got a soft cap here. That was one of the first styles of miners, and they wore that. They got, I'm going to try to rush a little bit, get through this. A lot of miners got hurt wearing that. For next hat they come out with was something like this. This has got a leather bill on it and a leather lining in it. This cap was probably worn in 20s. The next cap you see over here is what we refer to in mining as a low vein. I love to collect those hats. If you got a low vein hat out there or something, call me. I'll be willing to buy it. The next cap I want to show over here is what the miners are wearing today. These are MSHA approved hats, been tested and approved to withstand certain blows and so forth. And now we get over here to my gas equipment. The first miners that went in the mines, to test for methane, they used a cage with a bird in it here. I've got a cage there to show that. They went from that to a flame safety light. This flame safety light was just a little light that burnt, and you stuck it up in methane, and it would tell you if you had methane in it. And then it went from that to electronic equipment. This is one of those old methane detectors that I used in the mines several years ago, and they've got much better now. And with that, I've also got some knee pads over here. With that, I'll move on to the next project. I want to thank all of you for watching this show. Feel free. Rick's going to put this on several times. If you want to duplicate it and send it to somebody, plumb into California or something, feel free to do that. I don't charge you a penny for it, and I don't think Rick will either. But feel free to copy this and send it to any friends that you want to. But again, we're up here at the Miners Memorial, and it's located in Hemphill at the old Hemphill's grade school. And if you'd like to have, if you're a coal miner, Letcher County connected, and you'd like to have a brick here in the foundation that supports all these bricks, we sell those bricks for $50, and we use that for upkeep here to try to keep the place looking good for you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my board member, Rob, and I'm sorry.
No. I am Rob Fleming, chairperson for the entertainment committee of the Miners Memorial, and we are having a bluegrass festival September the 5th, beginning at 2 o'clock, and we'll have 4 bands. We'll have a miners candlelight service for our deceased miners at dusk that day. The bands appearing will be Will Caudle, Route 7, Bluegrass Circles, Dawson Creek Grass, and Astor Taylor and East Kentucky Times, and admission is free, and we invite each and every one of you that can to come on out. We'll be giving away t-shirts all during the day, and at about 6:30 we'll have a drawing for a homemade quilt. Thank you.